Welcome back, y'all. Let's check back in with the Patreon live stream. Alabama, give us another question.
Here's a question from Joan. I used to try to figure out why my partner won't handle their clutter and give them ways they could address it. But I found this isn't appreciated, nor are the recommendations followed. How do you come up with solutions for problems that don't want to be solved?
How can I save a fish from drowning?
Yeah. It is too often like we force our solutions onto people who aren't looking for solutions.
Yeah.
And when we do that, it hardly ever works.
Yeah, and by the way, a solution for you may be the opposite of a solution for them. That's why I bring up the fish example as a parodic exaggeration. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Joan is doing this with love in her heart, but part of it has to do with her. Like the grief she feels around the other person's clutter is her own grief. It's not the grief that he's feeling. Now, you want to map that onto his experience and say, you know what, man, I think you should also be feeling grief. No, I actually feel fine in this space. Like, oh, so this isn't a you problem. It's a me thing, right?
Yeah.
It's my expectation, or just maybe we have radically different standards. And I'll tell you that if Bex wanted to paint our entire house pink on the inside, I would not want that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be like, oh, this isn't a good fit for us. If you need our house to look like a dollhouse, then us living together is a mismatch. It doesn't mean you're wrong for it, but it also doesn't mean that I'm wrong for not wanting it. And so, Joan, what I'm not telling you is you're actually wrong for wanting to clean up his clutter. No, but you know what? If I put you in the ocean, Joan, you might drown. If I take the fish out of the ocean to save it from drowning, I'm helping him, right?
Yeah.
Except I'm actually hurting him.
Yeah, it reminds me of this episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry David and his wife, they don't want to go to a friend's party. And so he comes up with this genius plan. He says, let's go the day after he has the party. And when we get there, and he says, no, the party was yesterday. We'll pretend like we thought it was tonight. And that will explain why we missed the party, but also we'll look like good people who at least tried. And then we'll just leave and we'll go out to dinner ourselves. And so they do that. And he's like, oh, no, it was yesterday. He goes, but you know what? You're here now. Come on in. We've got some leftovers. We're going to play some games. And Larry's like, no. We'll get going. We came on the wrong night. And his buddy's like, nope, you're already here. You planned on being here. You didn't have anything else to do. I'm going to solve your problem. And you're coming in and hanging out. And they spent the whole night together just being absolutely miserable. And that's precisely what we do to people when we solve problems that they don't want us solving, you know? Sometimes people aren't looking for an answer. Sometimes they're looking for an out, an excuse, an escape, or to simply be left alone. And you got to have the discernment to know that's what people want. What I would say to this question specifically, the best way you can help is to just be curious, because the problem seems to be the presupposition that it actually is clutter. And we don't know that until he says that it's getting in the way of something that he wants. And so I would start with being curious. Hey, why do you have this stuff? Like, what are your plans with this? What do you want to do with it? In a way that's genuine and doesn't put him on the defense. And then he might be able to explain to you some positive anticipated use that they have, or he might be able to identify what's getting in the way, and you might be able to help him in a way that appeals to his purpose, not to your prescriptions.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, she's really craving some boundaries to be set up here. And the best way to ask other people to help set boundaries with you is by respecting their boundaries. So if, they're in a relationship where she's really going out of the way to respect his boundaries, but he's not, well, that's a little lopsided, and she can, feel totally justified to say, hey, I've really gone out of my way to respect your boundaries, and would you be willing to do the same with me? Now, if it's just you telling him what to do, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's an unreasonable boundary. If I all of a sudden started putting walls up in my bedroom, my wife's going to be like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just putting up some new boundaries. Hey, you didn't consult me about these boundaries first with our shared space, our shared life. And so boundaries aren't just so I can keep you out. Boundaries are so that we can keep in what we want to keep in, and then the excess doesn't flow in. But it's only if we have the appropriate boundaries together.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.